let's greet our guest. Egberto, welcome to the broadcast.
Welcome aboard. How you guys doing today?
Yeah, we're good, man. How are you out there in Texas? I'm in
Uh,
Raleigh. David and
you're
Robbie are holding it down in Atlanta.
well. I mean, it seems like we're in three different states at the same time, aren't we? I
Mhm.
mean, talking about technology, but man, I was sitting down here listening to Robbie's Pain, and I mean, it was like, wow, that stuff on Walmart was great. And I wanted to jump in then, but I was so enthralled in listening to it. I said, let me finish hearing what she had to say because man, that was powerful.
Well, we're gonna get back to it, but we want to hear what you have to say, Egberto, because this is critical and important. National. What is going on?
Let me tell you, the story that I felt kind of bad because the story that I'm going to be talking about is once again Venezuela. I had an interview yesterday with the ambassador of Colombia, and it's amazing. He was the past vice president of Colombia, and then after he was actually kidnapped by Escobar, the drug dealer, and he became the vice president. Then he became he's now the ambassador, and he's working with this stuff called Grupo de Lima, and the Grupo de Lima is arranged trying to get Maduro uh, ousted out of Venezuela. So we hit an interesting snag yesterday in our interview because he wanted to point out and tell the rest of the world how independent these Latin American countries got together. Peru, Panama, Colombia, Costa Rica, and some other countries got together, and they are working independently with the help of the United States to oust Nicolas Maduro. Interestingly, I asked one question that really didn't go very well. Was Abrams a part of did they ever meet with Abrams? And he said yes. And who is Abrams? Abrams is the thug that Bush won, and now Donald Trump is using, and he's the one who messed up Nicaragua, if you remember, a while back, and he is in contact with this group. So what we're seeing an undercurrent of is a possibility that the United States is really thinking about getting involved in Venezuela because just 2 days ago, Donald Trump asked for $500 million purported to reinstitute democracy in Venezuela. So it is quite interesting what is happening here. So, folks, keep your eyes open for mothers. Look out for your sons and daughters because just like what happened in Panama back in 1989, I see the drumbeats towards 1989 and the ousting of Antonio Noriega that occurred then.
With some cooperation from the Democrats as well. You have to keep that in mind that there are the more quote moderate Democrats are very very much towing the line about Maduro, and this is in the face of this guy Bolsonaro winning in Brazil, and creating this whole right wing agenda out of keeping Lulu from running free. They arrested the opposition candidate. Nobody
Lula,
that
yes, and they threw Dilma Rousseff out of power in Brazil
yeah
from the right wing. So you're absolutely right,
yeah
and that has a lot of Americans don't realize that this has an impact on us too. What's going on in South America is a radicalization from the right side of all these countries, right back to the days of what we used to call the Chicago Boys. You remember how they messed up
yeah
Chile, how they messed up
yeah
Argentina, and these other countries. So
You know, Egberto, I'm not surprised. I don't think anybody watching is, but thank you for following all of it and updating because it's so hard to catch up on everything. And that's why I appreciate, independent media like yours because we can trust it. So for those of you, Egberto's site is right on this broadcast. But the other reason, just very briefly, I'm not surprised is because our economy is going into the what. And we have to find a way out in terms of the US. And this is classic. Every time we have to find a way out, we come in as bullies, with a false narrative as a savior, and we send our folks to war. damage, countries, really make a mess out of them, and then claim that we made everything better. And that's why 2 of our buildings in New York got slammed into with our own airplanes, because we did the same thing in the Middle East. And the Middle East is sick of us. So now we have to go to Latin America, who are vulnerable with this white ring uprising, and the perfect targets are the countries you're mentioning.
Robbie, and I wanted to bring that right back to what you were talking about at Walmart and so forth. It's a great distraction. What's going to happen in what they're trying to do. I wrote a blog piece yesterday that spoke about that was making the case that we are going to keep Venezuela in limbo for the next several months so that it can be used in the election of 2020. And how is it going to be used in the election of 2020? 2 reasons: to keep the business class. That what they're going to do is they're going to leave that thing hanging. Hey, we can actually take over those natural resources.
That
keeps the business guys involved. And then number 2, the American population doesn't understand the resources portion of the argument. So what they do understand though is, oh, they're protecting democracy from socialism, and so that's the next mantra that they use. So they're going to use that, the Venezuela example, as opposed to, let's say, the Norway or the Switzerland or these different kind of examples, because it's a country sitting on a pool of oil. And by God, if Americans ever see that a country is trying to use its natural resources and distribute it equitably around its people, we may start asking the questions: how come Colorado and Nebraska and all these places, only a few people benefit from those natural resources, while the entire country goes to Walmart?
And this is the same theme. This is the same theme, to your point, Miss Tamara, in rural Georgia, where you are, or in rural areas. We have expended all of the resources in the city. We cannot create more land. So when they want these resources, land is a resource, they come to Southwest Atlanta after, quote unquote, shitting on it for decades, really lifetimes, industrialize it, damage it, pollute it. And now where can we go? The rural spaces. What do they have? Land. What do they have? Space. We don't have it anymore. And that's exactly why what you're witnessing and what's happening in Southwest Atlanta is witnessing, or is happening. And I'm sorry, I'm a little passionate about it. But what is it that we are going to do collectively, beyond, to get people to realize that this is critical? We are at critical mass, and we cannot allow. Why does Buckhead wait until they're at their front door and then see them as the enemy? And people like AOC, who are trying to showcase this and dismantle systems, become personally attacked. Let's not fall for that.
You just asked a question and before leaving, I'd like to give a proposal of an answer. And it's something that I'm learning right now. And what I'm learning is that the things that people understand the most is when you give them the individual stories of how these mechanisms actually affect them personally. Because we're not a very empathetic country. And since we're not empathetic, we have to see how it actually affects people similar to us. So in whatever area you live, it doesn't matter what the demographics are, you can actually find those people in those areas. Because one of the things that happen in America is Americans know how to suffer in silence. And suffering in silence is what's very dangerous, because people don't see that their tribulations are similar to the tribulations of others. And what we can do to connect those people is to bring those out. And other people then start to see, oh my God, that's the same thing that's happening to me that I was too ashamed to let other people see. And that is why stories are so powerful. That is why stories are so important.
Thank you, Egberto. David has always talked about stories and telling our stories. So we're right there with you, Egberto. You can find Egberto at politicsdoneright.com. He gives us a national political update every Friday. Egberto, we appreciate you, brother.
Thank you very much. And your stories are always great. So thank you very much. And the passion is great. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Egberto.